not LinkedIn, not Instagram, but in life. I would really want to know who is Yogesh? Yogesh as a person, or how you want to define Yogesh?
I think I'm a big blackboard, which is 30-35% written, but it has a lot of space for new things and new knowledge and new experiences and new events. That's who I am.
What do you see AI as it's a tool, it's a blessing, it's a bane?
Text to text model is very similar to how a child learns language. So a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. So you tell them more words and they know more words. You tell them about a story and then they know the story. You give them another book and then they have more knowledge. I think respect is a given. Disrespect is earned. I don't approach people with that they have to earn my respect. So the imagination and the stories, they precede what you're trying to do.
Your book, The Final Experiment.
It's a mystery science fiction, so I can't give away a lot. Story which is written in a Dickensian and a Premchand kind of a narrative rather than a very hard science fiction narrative. I can tell stories in a manner that resonate with people.
So welcome back to the Adycted Show, where we explore what happens when you stop following the system and start designing your own. Today's guest is someone who doesn't fit into a box, and maybe that's the point. He has built India's first Wi-Fi calling platform, led 10,000 plus retailers, worked in e-commerce, fintech, and now he's a senior product manager with Google Gen AI. But here's the twist, he's also an author, a dreamer, a storyteller who just dropped his first sci-fi novel, The Final Experiment, a book that questions what it means to be human in an AI-driven world. And talking to him made me realize something. You don't need to pick a box. Reinvention isn't confusion. It's actually thinking with clarity, or a clarity in motion. You can write algorithms and also write metaphors. And being rational does not mean that you need to stop dreaming. As a matter of fact, sometimes the most successful people are the ones who can do both. So hello everyone, welcome to the Adycted Show. So please welcome the ever curious, quietly brilliant, and a boundary breaker, Mr. Yogesh. Hi Yogesh, welcome on the show.
Hi Adi, thank you for inviting me on your podcast. I'm equally excited to chat with you. Thank you for your kind words. And it's also an auspicious occasion because it's the birthday of Alan Turing. So we could not have chosen a better day for a podcast.
That's a fun fact right there. Not a fun fact, it's a big fact which you're throwing it out there, right? Alan Turing, of course, not everybody remembers everything off the hook. But how do you, is it something are you a fan of him or what?
So I think Alan Turing is a seminal figure in computer science. Many people would have known him from the popular movie The Imitation Game, which came out a few years ago. He was instrumental in breaking the Enigma code, which allowed the Allies to really reduce the time of the World War. The war would have taken 2 to 3 more years and would have cost 15 million more lives if Alan Turing would not have broken the Enigma code. And he did that by using a very primitive version of a computer or a computing machine. And he was also the first person to understand how you can program the computer and how you can actually put all the available data into a machine and then let it operate. So he is also, in some sense, the godfather of artificial intelligence. So he is a very revered figure, and today is, I would say, his birthday. So it's a big deal.
So I'm honestly speaking, right now in a small conversation, I've learned so much about Alan Turing through you. So thank you, first of all. I already knew about him, but yes, of course, it's a good reminder for me. And of course, thanks to Alan Turing and happy birthday. Wherever he is in his grave, or maybe, I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, jokes aside, so I'm so today when we're sitting it down, right, before we take it further, right, I want to break it down and keep it very simple, right? So most important thing is not LinkedIn, not Instagram, but in life. I would really want to know, you have led big teams, right? And you have worked into different setups and you have achieved so much in your life. But if somebody wants to know who is Yogesh as a person, or how you want to define Yogesh?
So we are starting with a philosophical question first. So it's so firstly, I have been very fortunate in life to get the opportunities that I have gotten, and I know not everybody gets these opportunities, and I don't believe that I've done a lot or achieved a lot of things, and it's not very easy to answer who I am, because I also don't see myself as my job. I don't see myself as a computer scientist or an author. I believe I am the sum of all my emotions and the sum of the responses that I have to external stimuli. Uh, as a person, I try to be better every day, better than yesterday. I try to uh, not do harm knowingly. I try to remember that everybody is trying their best, and I fail at a lot of these attempts, and I'm also the sum of all of those failures as well. Uh, so you must have heard of John Locke. So John Locke is one of the most famous philosophers of all times, and he was a doctor in 17th century England, and he has this concept of tabula rasa, which is that when you're born with a blank slate, and through sensory perception and through your experiences, you get a sense of self, and it changes also. So who I am 5 years ago was different from who I am today, and will be different from who I am in the future. uh, so if I have to give one answer, I think I'm a big blackboard, which is 30-35% written, but it has a lot of space for new things and new knowledge and new experiences and new events. So that's who I am.
That's wonderful. I'm like, I think in a manner of speaking, like we all are blank slates, right? And there's so much of story which is yet to be written. And of course, I'm like, and plus, when I'm talking to you, I'm getting a sense of a feeling, where that you're a kind of person who's who can accept things the way they are, and maybe, uh, not really accept, I would say, but yeah, I'm like, you're very compassionate. Is that a right word to say? I'm like,
uh, I think so, but are you talking about being passionate or being compassionate? I mean,
no, I'm like,
both are.
see, everybody, people are always, kind of passionate or driven about something, and
Yeah.
for them, for some people, it's a destination. Right?
Yeah.
But for you, like what I have read about you and what I've learned about you and what I've told our audience as of now, right? You don't take it like a destination, right? Is it a continuous evolving journey for you?
Um, I think so. I think so. So let me let me share it through examples. So firstly, uh, I don't believe that curiosity is unconventional. I think curiosity is the convention. And a lot of the times when you see people stuck in their life or in their jobs or being unhappy, it's because they are doing what's unconventional. They've stopped becoming curious. Uh, I bet you cannot find me a 5-year-old who's not curious. You rarely find people like that. And what the sense that the 5-year-old has, that is the conventional sense, because they have not uh, learned, let's say, spurious things that other people are telling you. So that's something that I believe is real curiosity. And I think apart from that, I have an incident from a book that everybody would have read. So that's why I want to quote that. So I read The Alchemist some 20 years ago, and
Yes.
it's a very short and pleasant story. So in that story, there was this shepherd boy in Andalusia, Spain, who had been doing sheep herding for his whole life, for 20 years. And then suddenly he asks himself, I can always do sheep herding now. What else is there? So then the next thing you know, he's in Morocco, and he's become a crystal merchant. And he's one of the best crystal merchants out there. He uh, forms great relationships with customers. His managers are happy with him. And then he realizes that I can sell crystals anytime in my life. Now I have learned this.
All right.
What else is there in life? So then he becomes a tour guide in the Sahara, and
Oh,
eventually,
yeah.
because he keeps discovering these things, and he remains curious, he even tries to become an alchemist, which is a person who turns mercury into coke. He fails at the attempt, but he still tries that. So there is, and I really like the way the story was framed, because it was framed from the perspective of a simple sheep herder who was not told by anyone that you have to remain on this path, that you have to do one certain thing in life, and it and his frame of mind was very similar to the frame of mind of that 5-year-old
Hmm.
who doesn't yet know that they don't have to be curious. So if you are, then life leads you in different ways. And it also goes back to something that I said in the previous answer where I feel that I'm very fortunate that I'm getting a lot of these opportunities, and with that comes the responsibility of respecting these opportunities, because not everyone gets this. And if I have a chance to do something that I want to do and I like doing, I must do it, because through luck or through sheer fortune, I've gotten those opportunities, and I want to make the best of those.
I'm like, so of course I understand, like, so it is often said that, opportunities are always there and they're always knocking the door, right? And you just be open to accept it and, work hard towards it, right? To create something. So it's a very noble thought. I'm like, and of course, like, as of now, like, when I'm talking to you and the beautiful story you told us and everybody's read about it, but the curiosity, right? I'll just make it a little lighter. I'm like, it's also said that curiosity killed the cat. So I'm like, being curious is fine, but are there dimensions to it? I'm like, are there some caveats, which we need to be mindful about?
Uh, it's I think it depends on on what you're doing and where you want to go in life. It's not a necessary skill to find happiness in life, and there are different channels through which you can find happiness in life. There are people who are already doing a lot of hard work in their lives. They are good at their jobs. They are providing for their family. They are putting food on the table. Uh, Whether it's a mother who's teaching in school for 10 hours a day and then coming back to her kids, or whether it's a father who's doing a similar thing. uh, so they already have a lot of cognitive load, and they already worried a lot about what their children's future is going to be. So I don't want to say that if they're not curious, then they're missing out on life, because then their joy is based on the time that they're spending with each other, the achievements of their children. So it's not that they have a lesser life
Correct, correct.
because they're not curious. And for me, the answer was different, because I uh, currently maybe not I've not gone through a lot of such circumstances where I have to really choose a lot or make large sacrifices, and that's why I said I've been very fortunate, right? So if I would have to do that, then the journey would have been different.
I'm like, no, while I'm hearing from you, I feel like there's a lot of gratitude you have for people and the opportunities you've got. And then very often, I'm like, we people tend to, just get carried away into flow of things and are never grateful. We never take a pause to just count our blessings and just take a step forward.
So I am 100% sure there are uh, thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who can do what I do in a better manner if given the chance, or if given the opportunity, if they were at the right place at the right time, if they were born in a household where education was prioritized, where children were allowed to take risks and fail, and and even sit for exams which are not very, I would say, cheap to write also. So there are a lot of things which worked in my favor, and I'm very cognizant of that. So I don't have delusions that I'm the best at what I do. I'm A lot of it is fortune, and I think being grateful is the only way to have the right sense about it and keep moving forward.
I think I've already said grateful. I'll add one more adjective to it, which is you're very modest too. I'm like, there are a lot of people who are actually, very well privileged, right? But they still are not able to pounce on the opportunities which comes their way, right? So of course, and it's a very noble thought. So now this brings to me a point, right? Where what I want to say is, like, we are often defined or are labeled in life. Okay, for example, let's say if I ask you, like, are you a techie or are you a writer? Are you a leader or are you a follower? Right. So there is a lot of compartmentalization which happens, correct? And I believe, like, life will become much more bigger and better if we stop shrinking ourselves to those labels. So what do you think, Pavlik?
Uh, it's true. It's true. I think I've kind of touched upon this as well. So I would hate myself to be labeled and to be pigeonholed into a certain type of things to do, uh, because it also limits my expression of creativity. And creativity doesn't is not limited to your art. Creativity is also in every dimension of the things that you do, whether it's your work, how you're giving a presentation, and how you're doing X, Y, and Z, how you're managing your people. You can be very creative in managing people also. So I hate to put labels on myself. There was a time when uh, it wasn't the case. So there is a term called Renaissance man,
Yeah.
which was used for people like Da Vinci and all, but not just Da Vinci. It was for people who understood that in life you don't always need to master a very certain thing. You can know 10, 15 different things and still try to do a lot of those things, and it was appreciated. uh, and I think we might be heading in a similar world uh, with AI agents becoming extremely stronger and sensible in the future, where I think everybody then I see in the next 5 to 10 years, everyone will be able to become a leader, a techie, a writer in their own sense by having their own personal agents. So we're moving in the right direction. I don't think uh, the classifications would remain so rigid in the coming days.
I'm like, no, and I'm very well put, right? As of now, like, no, AI, like, no, everybody, it's a talk of the town, and it's here, and it's gonna stay prevalent, right? I'm like you said, it'll become more important in the near future, right? But and as you also work very closely with the AI, right? And maybe in a small, for a layman, if we can walk us through, like, how you function in that space with respect to AI, and what do you see AI as it's a tool, it's a blessing, it's a bane, or it's a somehow I feel like people are getting a little complacent since AI has walked into their lives, right?
Yeah. Uh, so you asked multiple questions.
I'm sorry, I'll break it down. You can pick one by one. Yeah,
I can try
yeah,
answering them one
yeah,
by one. I'll start with the first one. You said what is AI and what do I do with it?
yeah.
So I think the most common and the popular phase of AI is natural language processing, where people are really happy that a machine could talk to them in the language that they understand very well. And my role currently is in a domain where I facilitate the creation of such models.
Okay.
And the text to text model is the simplest model. Right now, you also have very strong text to image and image to text and video to text type of models as well. Correct. So my role is across the life cycle of getting this model trained and getting it to a point where it can then be used by external customers. And it starts by firstly creating a data pipeline. So a data pipeline is a set of information or the set of training data that the model needs for really understanding the world around it. So it's very similar to, so the text to text model is very similar to how a child learns language. So a 2 year old or a 3 year old. So you tell them more words and they know more words. You tell them about a story and then they know the story. You give them another book and then they have more knowledge. And the more they read, the more they learn to associate. They learn to know that is the word that follows this at least 70% of the times. So when they start speaking, they say this is a pot, or this is a statue, or this is a painting. So that's how children learn, and that's a very similar training mechanism that we have for artificial intelligence. But for text models, we gather data from books, from internet, from a lot of websites and all, and then we create the data pipeline. So for data pipeline, a lot of cleaning happens, a lot of deduplication happens, a lot of alignment happens to remove the harmful data, because you don't want your model to be trained on malicious data. Okay, so a lot of that thing happens. So which is a data pipelining, and you have engineers and product managers and ML researchers just working on this phase itself, which is preparing the data set for training the model. Now, once you have the data set, the next thing is you have to train the model. So right now, it is going through an unsupervised learning.
Hmm.
So unsupervised learning is a mechanism where the data is not labeled. So labeled data means that you have a picture of the cat and you have a text which says this is cat.
Correct.
Whereas unsupervised data is it's just data and let the model learn what it wants to learn based on it.
So if
And
you don't, sorry to cut you,
Yeah.
but I'm curious a bit
Yeah.
right now. So like you said, first of all, you have actually compared the entire data pipeline. It's like actually you're in love with AI,
Yeah.
and then you're like actually training a baby,
yeah,
right? That's how you put it, right? So when you say text to okay, you show a picture of cat and you tell it that it's a cat.
that's
right?
a labeled data.
Label data, right?
Yeah.
But now what I'm saying is like no curiosity. AI is also curious, right? That's why it's
Yeah.
unsupervised, right? In some way or the other, right? So what if it someday the AI is creative and it's calling a cat as an elephant or elephant as a cat?
Yeah.
How do we go about that?
So it's not someday. I would say this is in the past.
Acha, oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
It
Yeah.
used to happen a lot. So and this is later in the
Development
process that I was
okay.
describing.
Hmm.
So there is something called reinforcement learning with human feedback. It is called RLHF,
Okay.
which comes after you have done the pre-training, and then it's a rewards-based function where if you ask a question and the AI is answering it wrongly, you deduct some points, and if it is answering it correctly, you give it some points. So it's a gamification for the AI, and based on that, you improve whatever wrong outputs that it is generating.
It's like अगर बच्चे को अच्छा आप well behave करोगे
Yeah.
बेटा तो आपको will get you
Positive
candy. Will get you
reinforcement
candy.
and negative reinforcement.
Okay.
Some very similar to what happens. It's the same psychology.
Okay.
So earlier I was describing the data set. So once you have the data set,
Correct.
and earlier AI models were trained on hundreds of millions of tokens and all. Right now it's in data sets that you can't even imagine. So all of that is going into the algorithm of an AI, and the algorithm essentially is asking them to create a vector embedding. So I would love to show you what a vector embedding is, but
Yeah.
we can do it maybe later.
Okay.
So think of a three-dimensional space.
All right.
You think of an x coordinate,
Yeah.
a y coordinate, and a z coordinate.
Okay.
Now, based on everything that the model has, it creates words associations.
Okay.
So in that three-dimensional space, all the words that are closest to each other will be next to each other.
Okay.
For example,
Are you talking about quadrants? Wala?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So it is like a quadrant, but in a 3D space.
Okay.
You have X, Y, and Z also.
Okay.
So imagine that there's X, there's Y,
Hmm.
and towards myself is Z.
Z.
But
Okay.
in the Z at this point,
Yeah.
there is king
Hmm.
and man
Hmm.
and maybe grandfather. So these three things are together
Okay.
because the AI thinks they are similar.
Similar.
Whereas if you think of, let's say, a monkey, an elephant, and a blue whale, so they will be here at this point.
All right.
So this is a point in space. These are very different points.
Okay.
And this is what happens when you give the data to the model.
Hmm.
It creates this three-dimensional space where there are all the words are distributed.
Okay.
And the way you know which word is closer to which word is, you map the distance from the center of that coordinate from 0, 0, 0.
Yeah.
So from 0, 0, 0, the difference you have a line to this, and from 0, 0, 0 you have a line to is this. So
Okay.
this and is will be pretty close to each other because they have to be next in line.
Okay.
Whereas this and am will be very far from each other.
All
So
right.
the distance from 0, 0, 0 will be very far. So this is what the AI is doing. It is essentially learning which words have to be next to each other, and for the model to understand it, we have created this three-dimensional space for it to understand, which is called vector embeddings. So the result that you see when you're typing something, it's all everything that is crammed by the machine.
Yeah.
So when you are asking it something, it's not generating whole sentences. It is only predicting the next word.
So it has to make a sentence and it's going through all this process
Yes,
of.
but it does it so fast that you don't realize it.
Oh,
So it
wow.
is doing this is a machine. This machine is very good at handling complex queries. So every word is generated after the previous word. And
Wow.
and apart from the training that it has, it also takes your prompt, which goes into the mix to then. And when your prompt goes into the mix, then this three-dimensional space that we are saying, there are some changes to it because now it has another input. It has new training data, which has more weight than the previous data. So there is some changes in the three-dimensional space, which will then result in output which matches your prompt. But still, once we've done this thing, once we've done the training and you have the three-dimensional space, The next stage is fine tuning, which involves label data, and which it involves domain specific expertise. So you have a trained model which is pre-trained, but when you fine tune it, then you really should be able to use it for your specific work. So fine tuning involves giving it a set of, let's say, 10,000 questions and answers. So this is a labeled data.
Okay.
So you have taught it based on the books and websites. Now you give it 10,000 list of
Things to filter out.
yeah, for this question this is the answer, for this question this is the answer.
Okay.
And then it also goes into the model it has created. So when I talk about the three-dimensional space, it has weights and biases associated with it. And weights is the difference between it's based on the distance between the two combination of the words, and the technical term is similarity score.
Okay.
So it's creating that. So anything with fine tuning also, we are recreating or renumbering the weights and biases as per your requirements. And once it is fine tuned, then we have RLHF, which you talked about, which is reinforcement learning with human feedback.
Okay.
Which is the costliest thing.
Okay.
Because till now it was all machine related stuff, and even that was not costly in terms of human labor, but that was costly in terms of machines. Because even for creating that three-dimensional space of vector embeddings, you have to run the program on tens of thousands of hardware machines, like GPUs or Google's TPUs, which are not very cheap right now, and it involves a lot of power. So today, I think AI related queries and training is taking around 1% of all power generated in the US. So it takes a lot of power to train the model. It takes a lot of power to get the answers from it. And I think after RLHF, your model is more or less ready for human consumption. So it's training data. It's then
Mapping, labeling.
Yeah, it's training data, then supervised fine tuning, and then you have your RLHF. And the job of a PM, it lies within the whole scope of the things, because it is, how does a model get accurate? That work is being done by an ML researcher or an ML scientist who's usually a PhD from Stanford or MIT, and they're working on the mathematics of it. But somebody has to make it easy for them to go through the whole process. Somebody has to make a tool on which they could upload the data.
So, so you said the second part is the labeling, like the mapping wala part, right?
Yeah. So after the data pipelining, you have the training, then you have supervised fine tuning, which involves labeled data, which is right answers and wrong answers.
Correct.
Then you have reinforcement learning with human feedback, and after that, your model is somehow ready. It's not still the best model out there, and there are a lot of product managers and who are working on the entire journey. Because ML researchers and ML scientists, they focus on making the model more accurate. So they have to run a lot of experiments, and we enable them to run a lot of these experiments. We enable them to check and clean their data and improve the data pipeline. We enable them to have a tool where they can directly just go and upload that data and do supervised fine tuning on it and run ML programs on it. We enable them to also have pipeline parallelism and data parallelism. So this is something which is extremely important for the model to run fast. So this is essentially, if you have 10,000 machines, how do you divide what code runs on which machine?
Yeah, division label.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But how do you divide what data
processed by
which computing data is processed by which hardware? So because these machines are running in parallel in unison, so you have to create tooling and the software for the ML researchers to be able to do that, and you don't want them to use cognitive workload. It has to be a button for them.
Correct.
And if I want to do data pipelining, then this. If I want to divide my program, then I have to click something else. And then you have to also create evaluation and benchmark, not just tooling, but the whole processes for your ML researchers. So they have created a model. Now, how does it compete with existing models out there in the market? And if it doesn't compete, how can they make it better. So there are things like hyperparameter tuning and all. So we create the ecosystem and the tooling and the softwares that an ML researcher or ML scientist needs to work on the next foundation model, or the improve the current foundation model, or even do the end-to-end life cycle journey till compilation of a model. So we this is what I enable. This is why a lot of people who are working in Gen AI and ML infra enable. So you hinted at asking what is ML infra, and ML infra is anything that enables Gen AI to come to users. Okay, it's all of the work that gets done to enable Gen AI.
Well, I'm like, to be very honest, I didn't know anything of that sort. and so many, but people like you, the smart minds like you across the world, across the globe, like, working day in, day out to make life easier for the people who are the end consumers, right? I'm like, and and this is very beautiful. I'm like, I didn't know. And this is, of course, this is a journey, end to end process and cycle. We are all familiar about it. And so much goes into it. And then when you say fine tuning, it is about the white noise. You clear it out. Like, it's a kind of a, what's a standard error? Is that something of that sort?
Uh, I think fine tuning is more about giving a direction to the AI and not noise. So it's you have a foundation model which is very generic. But if you're a pharmaceutical company who wants to create a chatbot for that model, then you train it on 10,000 questions and answers based on your industry.
Correct.
Which would be drug related and which would have some terms which are related to that. So there are these English terms which can have multiple contexts.
Right.
So based on the industry, the model knows better. So fine tuning is essentially tuning it towards the ultimate use case that it is supposed to serve. So if you're Google and you have a foundation model, then you have to fine tune it with a different set of questions and answers for ads versus for YouTube, because the customers are different and the kind of requirements would be different. So it's a very important process for creating a use case out of the model.
Perfect. So I'm like, in the entire conversation, and I've been itching to say it, but I've held myself back because it was a beautiful process you defined as of now. So the two words, okay, one is AI, second is experiment. These are two words you talk about.
Yeah.
Right? And this is what something I really, really want to talk to you about your book, The Final Experiment. Of course, we'll touch base on that a little later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, I'm getting there. Yogesh, I'm like, what we've talked about right now, I feel very deeply inspired. I'm like, you have taught me so much in such a short span of conversation. So now I want to actually speak to you about something more, which is which can be of daily use for people, maybe, about life, about leadership, about strategy, maybe, right? And so I read something, एक चीज मैंने पढ़ी कि यार, if you walk into a room and the room is too big, right, you should walk into it anyway, right? Because कुछ कॉन्वर्सेशन ऐसी होती हैं जिनको हम अवॉइड कर रहे हैं, कुछ चीजें हैं जिसको हम फेस नहीं करना आते, बट वहीं पे नेक्स्ट चैप्टर स्टार्ट होता है. एंड इसी पॉइंट को माइंड में रखते हुए आई वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड, लाइक, व्हेन यू वर्क एंड यू हैव वर्कड इनटू मल्टीपल इंडस्ट्रीज. टेलीकॉम में आपने काम किया, डीप माइंड में आप कर रहे हो, एंड अल्फाबेट के अम्ब्रेला में. बट या, सो हाउ इज it difficult for you, or how do you go about it? Like, आप industry switch करना. And again, I know I'm asking too many questions in one question, so please forgive me. So let's keep it simple. When you have worked into different industries, how do you carry yourself?
Yeah, let me think about this. So it's a good question. So there are a few dimensions to this question. So firstly, if you move to a new industry, there is industrial expertise that you lack, and you have to work towards building that, and just to be able to add value to the new team where you're going. But there is a second aspect of leaving an organization where you're known, where you have some goodwill, where you have people who you have been working with,
Correct.
and doing the same thing all over again in the next organization. And I think what makes your life much more easier or difficult in any organization are the people. So they're getting the technical expertise is not that hard. It used to be harder before. Right now you have a democratization of any expertise which is out there. You can go on YouTube and learn about it. There are people who you can cold call and message on LinkedIn, and they are open to explaining what they do and helping you out. So that's something which you can do early on, and that's something that you must do also. And I believe one important thing that there is and we touched upon this earlier as well when you use the word passion.
Yeah.
And so for me, passion is not associated with your industry or with it's not like or dislike, which is how people have started using it, that football is my passion. I see passion as a human quality. Either you're a passionate person or you're not a passionate person.
Correct.
And for me, a passionate person is somebody who really is interested in whatever they're doing. So if you're making a commitment, if you are saying that I want to work with this firm, then you have to understand what it does, deeply understand the impact that it has on its customers, and deeply understand the way the tech works. If you're in tech industry, but if you're in mechanical industry, then you have to deeply understand what that firm is doing.
Okay.
So for me, passion is immersing yourself in whatever you're doing, and there is no way out of it. So you
Right.
can't say that. And there are things like quiet quitting and coasting and freeloading. These terms happen, but uh,
Moonlighting
yeah,
also.
yeah, even that. But with these things, what usually happens is, and I'm not talking about cases where it's really extremely difficult for people to concentrate and they're in such a life circumstance that they can't do it. But I'm talking about usual cases where people have started feeling that their employer only deserves X amount of their attention. And I feel that they're not cheating on their employer, they're cheating on their own self, because it's a slow corrosion.
Correct.
You would not even notice when you lose the capability of immersing yourself in anything, when you lose the capability of being passionate about your work. So you can't wait till you get interesting work to start paying attention or to start immersing yourself. So this is something that I usually do whenever I change industries. I immerse myself. I try to uh, be as focused as much as I can about the industry and about the work. Uh, and I think another reason for the same is because I am deeply aware of the luck and the fortune that I have of working in an industry or in a field which is not just in the zeitgeist, but people want to work there. And out of sheer luck, I find myself working there. So I have a responsibility to respect the opportunity. So respecting the opportunity and preparing well for a role is extremely important. The second thing I would say, which if I have to compare, then I would say the expertise and domain knowledge is like 30-35% contributor to your success. The 60-65% comes from the way you handle people, the way you work with them. And there are things that I remember from my early days. So uh, I started as an engineer back in 2013, but this incident is from 2017 when I really started working in sales.
Okay.
And a senior salesperson who was senior in experience, but he was reporting to me at that time. I joined as a zonal sales manager in the Northeast, and he was introducing me to distributors, and he was telling me that sir, distributor की एक कुर्सी होती है जहाँ भी आप चाहते हो. And I had 200 distributors under me. So he was introducing me to a few of them, and he said, uh, वो टेबल के उस तरफ उनकी कुर्सी है, वो आपको ऑफर भी करे तो मत बैठना, क्योंकि वो करेंगे बट आपको बैठना नहीं है.
It's a matter of pride for
या इट्स क्योंकि उन्होंने क्या किया है कि they started as maybe a farm laborer.
Okay.
And then they made some money and they made some investment and they did something else, and at the age of 50 उनका इतना अभी potential हुआ है कि they have become a distributor for Airtel, where also they're not earning a lot. They might be making somewhere between 20 to 40 lakhs if they're a rural distributor.
Okay.
But they have earned that share. And when you go there, please don't sit there. So ये बात मेरे एक टेरिटरी मैनेजर ने मुझे बताई थी, और ये इंडिकेशन था एक चीज का कि it applies to everything in life. So this was just one thing, but if you're working with 200 people, if you're showing them the right respect, and I believe that respect, so some people say you have to earn respect. I don't believe that. I feel that's utter crap. That
Okay.
that has ruined so many lives. I think respect is a given. Disrespect is earned. So
Uh,
I don't approach people with this with that they have to earn my respect. So I did that with a lot of the people that I work with, the distributors that I had, even the territory managers that I had, everybody who was in my team. I had a large team there, and I made it so that they would be happy to meet me,
hmm.
because whenever they would see me, they knew that I would talk to them in a friendly manner. And they knew that if I have 200 distributors, I have 300 days in the year. I cannot visit them all,
Correct.
but I still try to do that a lot. And so they still remember that I was friendly with them. So they remember how I made them feel. And even today, I get so many birthday requests, birthday wishes from them. And I used to work with them 8 years ago. Even today, when my book came out, they messaged me and they congratulated me, and they still like and share my posts everywhere. And these are people I've not talked to in 8, 9, 10 years. And I apply the same thing with my teammates and managers in new jobs also. The first thing is I approach them with respect, and I approach them with the mindset that they have my best interests as their intention. Because if you don't have that mindset, if you start doubting that your managers or your teammates are against you, then it becomes difficult to
Survive.
work in that environment. But if you approach it in that manner,
Hmm.
then believe it or not, within 3 to 6 months you would change their perception, even if they were against you. If you continuously believe that they have your positive intentions uh, in their heart, then you behave in a certain manner with them, and that shines through your personality, and that changes people's perception. Because deep down, I believe that everybody is essentially is essentially more or less a good human being. And they if you don't like them, that they might still have ten friends who really
Really
like
love
them.
them. Yeah.
So it's on you to change that perception. It's not a given that everyone is going to like you. And it is important for people to know that with any role, you're not entitled to people behaving good with you. You have to earn that. You have to work towards that, and you have to make them feel that you like them and you want to work with them, and they would reciprocate, even if it takes 3 months, 6 months. But it has to happen, because no one can live with the guilt that this is a good person who wants
Correct.
to work with me and likes me, and I keep behaving badly with them. It's 9 out of 10 times. I would say 99 out of 100 times you would succeed. There is always one odd person who you cannot beat.
Outlier.
But
Yeah.
but this is something I've tried over 10 years, and it has always worked with me. I have had great relationships with people that I've worked with, and I still chat with them, talk to them. And I have recent examples of when the book came out and the overwhelming response that I had, and the messages that people sent me.
So I'm like, I think this is something which is gonna stick with me for life now. And like, the respect is actually given, and disrespect is kind of earned. And you're absolutely right. I'm like, it's all about the perspective, how you approach the game, right? I think that's what you're trying to imply here. And when I'm talking to you, I'm like, you have so absolute clarity and vision about things you're doing and how you carry yourself, right? But I have a very important question to ask, and I'm being very, holding myself. कि यार मैं आपसे पूछूं ना पूछूं. When I'm listening to you, you sound like a person who's a storyteller. Okay, but you're a tech guy or a sorry, I'll not categorize you, but kind of a nerd. Also, because of course you're whatever you've done in life. But so how does that combination works for you? I'm like, because right now they're beautiful stories. I'm like, they people should know about it.
Yeah. So the good thing is that I don't see a difference between both, and it it has been so for a long time, because tech is nothing but advancing stories that somebody told 100, 150, if not 200 years ago. And I'll give you some examples also. So we already chatted about Alan Turing, but Arthur C. Clarke is, I think, a well-known figure. He wrote a lot of nice science fiction books like Rendezvous with Rama. There's a movie series called I, Robot. It's based
Yeah,
on
yeah,
his
yeah. I've
work.
seen that. Yeah.
And he predicted internet in 1964. He predicted that there would be a thing using which you would be connected. video calls and smartphones were predicted in science fiction in 1930s, and space travel was predicted in 1800s. So because somebody is building these stories, it is giving inspiration for people to other people to build that. Because
Right.
if somebody is telling you that it could be possible to call somebody using invisible rays,
Hmm.
if it is 18th century, you would think that uh, that's not possible. But in 19th century, somebody would try to build that, and it starts with the explanation of the story. So if you ask Marconi why is he trying to figure out radio waves, he would tell you, because I know that somebody told the story that you could be able to talk to each other. If they don't know the use case, they would not be inventing the thing.
Correct.
So the imagination and the stories, they precede what you're trying to build. And the same thing is happening with AI. So with AI, I think Alan Turing was the first person to even suggest these things, that with the Enigma machine, I'm able to do X, Y, and Z. And he also introduced the Turing test. So before Alan Turing, it was AI was not even a field. It was difficult to talk about. And Alan Turing gave this test, this Turing test, which says that I'm forgetting it exactly, but I still want.
I'm so happy
to
that you're forgetting something.
So the test goes like this: that if you have a machine in a room and a human in another room, and if you ask them questions for 5 minutes, and if in more than 70% of the cases you're not able to tell which is human and which is machine, then the machine has passed the Turing test and it is artificial intelligence.
Wow. Okay.
But if it is not, if in less than 70% of the cases you're able to know, then it's not artificial intelligence. And he came up with this in 1950s, and he predicted a world where we should be able to train the machines with enough data that they would be able to play the imitation game. This is where the name of the movie comes from.
Okay.
Even though it was about Enigma and not an imitation game.
Yeah.
So a lot of storytelling precedes what is the technology today. And even in my work, even when it comes to training AI foundation models, we are trying to simulate human brain. And human brain is a connection of neurons and signals that they send, which are in turn stories as well. So you have to understand how somebody processes information to be able to train the AI to process information. There's a field called AI alignment on which a lot of people are working in Google, which is about making sure the AI doesn't do what it is not supposed to do.
Okay.
And how do you train it to not supposed to do that?
How trying to make it unlearn things? Is that what you say?
Or make sure it doesn't learn the wrong thing.
Okay.
How do you do with a kid? If they touch fire once, they would not touch fire again.
The ethical dilemma. Right?
Yeah. So you make sure that the cost of doing the wrong thing is extremely high.
Correct.
But the way we are coming up with these things is via stories. Because those stories are still the guides. They're very underappreciated in terms of the impact that they can have. I would say the entire AI phenomenon is storytelling. It's simulating life, and even the new fields or the branches that we have, they're based on these things. So it's the questions that we have to go through every day, they also help us in the same manner, that what are we building, who are we building it for, who benefits from this. And especially my role, I think it's the tech is not that difficult, and it is becoming much more easier with the AI also doing the coding part.
Yeah.
But it is the storytelling capabilities and knowing what you're building, who you're building it for, and how are they going to use it, and what is going to be the impact of on the world. That still will remain. And so I very, like I said, I don't see them as different things. So it has helped me in my career earlier as well. And I think the not having a distinction between a technical perspective and a storytelling perspective is also something that still helps me.
But I'm like, so there is a fine line, right? So, for example, let's say when we're talking about books, movies, which act as an inspiration for us, right?
Yep.
कहीं ना कहीं मतलब when you're talking, sorry, I want to say this. जब आप मुझे बोल रहे रे बीइंग्स and everything, and मेरे mind में चलता Star Wars, Star Trek,
Yeah.
all this, right? Those movies were like way ahead of their time,
Yeah.
just like Alan Turing, right? So what I want to know is like,
एक फाइन लाइन है, राइट, वो डाइल्यूट हो रही है. डू यू बिलीव दैट? आई नो आप बहुत बड़े फैन हो और एडवोकेट हो एआई के, टेक्नोलॉजी के, एंड यू लव इट, यू क्रिएट इट फॉर पीपल, यू ट्राइंग टू मेक लाइफ इजी फॉर एवरीवन in some way, or maybe it's very difficult for you to create all those things. But एक फाइन लाइन नहीं है कि आपने जैसे अभी मुझे बोला जो आर्यन ट्यूरिंग का टेस्ट था कि यू कैन डिस्टिंग्विश बिटवीन इंसान है या मशीन है.
Yep.
तो इनडायरेक्टली हम चाहते हैं कि मशीन को इतना समझदार बना दें कि हमारी लाइफ आसान हो जाए. एट द सेम टाइम हम उससे इतना स्कैर्ड भी हैं कहीं ना कहीं. लाइक अभी वाइल बैक और कपल ऑफ इयर्स बैक एवरीबडी वाज स्कैर्ड कि हमारी जॉब चली जाएगी, एआई विल टेक ओवर आवर जॉब्स, ऑल दैट एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ इट. So is there a fine line or a road you walk on here?
So I think it's a good question, and people building these technologies are asking this question themselves. And I have talked about this earlier with people too, that we think a lot about the economic consequences of what we are doing.
Correct.
So it's not just that the technology is ready and then we just put it out there. There is a lot of deliberation about it. So today in the US, 10% of all occupation is driving based. That's also a reason why you don't see automated cars everywhere, even though the technology is not far from being great. But the economic disruption that it will have is going to be more than what anybody could cope right now. So suddenly 10% of the population is without work. It is truck drivers, normal drivers and all.
Correct.
Then the economy will just go into recession and it will be difficult to recover. So these are the discussions that different firms who are building AI are having. And a similar thing will happen for every new kind of innovation. So I think there are positives and negatives. So positives are majorly around healthcare, where you can now see protein structures which you were not able to see before. So proteins are what keep us, what make humans. And in the last I think 5 years, there are firms like AlphaFold which have created the right protein structure for I would say north of million proteins, and this is 150 years of PhD work.
Okay.
From different people being done in less than 1 to 2 years. And what this will help with is personal medicine. That you have a medicine that is just suited for you, and I have a medicine that is just suited for me. Today, when we get fever, you get paracetamol, I get paracetamol.
Yeah.
That will change based on our body's makeup. So this is something that AI is bringing about. It is also bringing about early detection of a lot of diseases and all.
Yeah.
So there are these changes and innovations which are net positive. And then there are other changes and innovations which are happening at a rate which is, I would say, faster than the regulation and faster than the security apparatus is catching up. Today, there is also a risk of a very strong risk of cyber warfare.
Correct. Big risk. Yeah.
And with AI, that has also exacerbated. And so right now we are on a tense day where you have a war going on between US and Iran. But even during Obama's time, I think some 15 years ago, they had shut US had shut Iranian nuclear power plants just by cyber warfare.
Correct.
And nobody saw it coming. So you already had this capability of attacking the nuclear arsenal of a country while sitting at your own homes. So I think the security agencies of the world are not really also catching up with the potential that AI has in terms of stealing state secrets and stealing important information. So regulation is an issue. In terms of people being afraid of their jobs, I'm worried that they're not afraid a lot. I'm worried that they are making the case on social media or LinkedIn and they're making videos about it. I think they should be more worried than they are right now. They see AI is coming and they make the Ghibli memes and they do everything that is proper, and I think by 27, 28, it would be too late for them. And when I say they're not afraid enough, it means that I don't see enough people upskilling themselves or finding a different way they would be able to earn money, or learning about AI agents, or deeply understanding what is there to offer to be more productive. So they're using Chat GPT to maybe create a 1,000 word report that they have to
Right.
submit and all of those things, but they're not using uh, an API which ChatGPT has put on open source, which OpenAI has put on open source for you to experiment. They're not using Google Colab, they're not using Hugging Face to just see what foundation models are there and how can I create a business out of it. Because we are heading towards a world where in less than 5 years there would be a one man company which will cross $1 billion in valuation. One man company, as in one person, with different AI agents running it. So what is stopping you from creating a 5-man or 10-man company today? And it is a fallacy to still ignore tech. It is a fallacy to see that you might be able to pivot without creating these agents, or without creating a small firm of your own, or without creating something that allows you to understand these things deeply. And people can't complain that uh, the information was not out there for them to know. Facebook has always open sourced their models.
Correct.
What DeepSeek did last year, not even last year, what DeepSeek did was they just took open source models from Llama, from Facebook and Alibaba, and they changed the way they do fine tuning, and they created a new model in less than 1 million, whereas it took Facebook like hundreds of millions to create their model. So if DeepSeek was a financial stock exchange kind of a company, investment company, so they can do that. You can do it in your basement with a few people also, because you don't even need to do what they did. You can there are enough models out there for people to experiment and use on their own business to disrupt it. And even if it doesn't work, experiment with it. And if you experiment, you get the reliable experience to make a case for yourself in 2 years. So I'm of the perspective that there is noise, but people are not really afraid, and they need to be. The 20-25% of cognitive jobs are up for the taking in the next, I would say 5 to 10 years. Even today, 30% of Google's code and Microsoft's code is written by AI, which means that they're able to find new projects for existing engineers, but they're not hiring new engineers. That will reduce. So people have to really take an action after being afraid. They just can't still go on as if they're going on in their life after knowing that their lives have been disrupted. So that's my message to anyone hearing this.
Like, as of now, I actually got chills because it's scary. It's a scary thought. It's a very uncomfortable zone. It's a man's land zone kind of feeling I'm getting. Because AI is a tool in somebody's hand, but AI is also a weapon in somebody's hand, right? When you talk about cyber warfare, and then when you talk about how people are creating one man, or will be able to create one company. But yeah, I'm like, this is intense. I'm like, so yes, people, you need to be scared. Just going today again on ChatGPT and searching, cyber warfare will not help you. I'm like, maybe you need to research about it, invest energy into it, right?
And I'm saying scared in a good way. Scared as not that the world is going to end. Scared as in there is a new technology, and if you don't learn it, then somebody else is going to master it. There are open source APIs out there. Go and experiment. Go to Hugging Face. Go on Google Colab and see what they're doing. And it's not that difficult. So the barrier of coding has been reduced. You don't even have to write a single line of code. So earlier it used to be different. So today, if you have a data set which tells you about the pollution in the city of Delhi over the last 5 years, and let's say that the data set says lists every kind of vehicle that is in Delhi, it lists their make and model, and it lists whether it is diesel, petrol, or everything, and it is a huge file of 100 MB. And you have to create a plan of reducing pollution in Delhi. So you don't have to do anything. You take that file, you go to Google Colab, you create open new notebook, and you upload that CSV file, and then just you type in text, tell me what is in this file, give me the insights to reduce pollution in Delhi, do create an ML model which you feel is the best for this kind of a data, and it will analyze the file, it will clean the data, it will tell you that random forest regression is the best model, and I'm going to run the model now and give you insights in 5 minutes. It will write the Python code for that, it will give you the results, and in 2 minutes you have done the job which would have taken 6 to 8 months for a data scientist to do, or maybe a team of data scientists.
Correct.
And a team of UX engineers who would have created presentations around it, and a team of product managers who would have spent some time building slides around it. And it's 10 people's job which can now be done in 2 minutes. So why don't you know how to do it? So you have to try and experiment these things, and you don't need to know coding also. So it's extremely important for people to know that
Hmm.
that things are out there in the open. You're missing out on things.
So maybe it's in a short. It's will it be okay to say either you adapt or you die, right?
Uh, yeah, I think that die is still an
Sorry,
overstatement.
yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, like,
but
like
yeah,
you said, we have to move with the technology.
yes.
We cannot play a catch-up game with the technology. We have to stay ahead of the curve, right?
So I will say, instead of die, you can say that you are working at a certain company which is paying you a certain level of let's say salary based on market expectations. So if you are in the top 15% of the market today, if you don't adapt, you might go to top 20%, or top 25%. I'm not saying that people who have 20 years of experience will be out of jobs, but it's if you want to maintain the kind of market position that you have or even grow, then it is imperative that you do this.
So Yogesh, I like we've touched upon AI in very detail right now. Okay, and this brings to me the most important, interesting segment of my entire show, which I wanted to talk to you about, was your book, The Final Experiment. And I know it is based in a AI driven world, and maybe I think the essence of your book, what I got out of it was कि यार कि AI तो है prevalent, but हम इंसान कैसे नहीं, right? है ना? तो maybe first of all just walk us through about your book, कि book का क्या source है, क्या inspiration है.
Okay. Uh, so I can talk about it for a long.
Of course.
And so AI है, बुक में टेक्नोलॉजी भी है, पर वो स्टोरी को आगे नहीं, मतलब स्टोरी को आगे जो नरेशन है वो कैरेक्टर बेस्ड है. इट्स अ वेरी ह्यूमन स्टोरी. और जो भी मेरे इन्फ्लुएंसेस भी रहे हैं शुरू से, आई हैव even though I've read a lot of external authors in different languages, there is a very strong influence of people like Premchand on my work, people like Charles Dickens on my work, जहाँ पे story or emotions was the leading character and not the actual people. And for science fiction, I think I've read a lot of Asimov and Ursula K. Le Guin and all, so उनसे भी काफी influenced है. But with any story that I write, I try to invoke the same feelings that these authors invoked in me when I was a kid reading these things. And stories पे भी I gravitate a lot because I think you can tell the same story in fiction and non-fiction.
Correct. Yes.
So but I feel that fiction stays longer with you. उसकी longevity ज़्यादा है. Non-fiction में you can tell a lot of stats and all, and it will stay with you for maybe a month. Whereas fiction stays with you for as long as you do. So I remember reading a story called Jurmana some 20 years ago. It's a short story from Premchand. And it's a story about a cleaning lady who is on the way to get her monthly wages from the government facility where she works. And throughout the journey, जब भी वो जा रही है, she's thinking about कि जुर्माना कितना कटेगा इस बार. क्योंकि उसको याद है कि she was late many days for work. Then there were days when her manager had caught her slacking at work.
Achha, okay.
Or then there were days when she was in a market when she should have been at work. तो ये सारा वो याद कर रही है, और when she's on the way to get get her wages, and then she's sitting there and वो बुला रहे हैं लोगों को, cleaners को, और उसको ये भी लग रहा है कि 50 पैसा अगर कट गया तो अगले महीने का वेतन, अगले महीने का काम नहीं निकले, एंड दिस इज ड्यूरिंग प्रेमचंद सेरा, तो 50 पैसा बड़ी बात होती थी। और वो सोच रही है पूरा कि अगर 50 पैसे कटे तो कैसे प्लीड करेगी कि कितना मत काटो, मेरा ये महीने का खर्चा रुक जाएगा। और जब उसको बुलाते हैं वहाँ पे वेतन देने के लिए, तो देयर वाज नो फाइन दैट मंथ, कोई जुर्माना नहीं था।
अच्छा।
And I remember feeling the relief, the joy, and the gratitude that character felt.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
I think that's still one of the stories, because that I remember because of the feelings it invoked. I evoked in me, and I wanted to do something similar.
Acha.
That I should give my readers a similar experience which they take with them. And talking about stories, like I said, you can convey the same things in non-fiction. You can talk about poverty in non-fiction, but it doesn't stay with you. You can talk about war in non-fiction. There are several books about wars written in non-fiction manner, which are splendid books, and I enjoyed them while reading them. But when you read Kite Runner, the Kite Runner is an anti-war book without hammering the message to you. It doesn't preach, but it puts you in the center of a war-torn country, and it tells the story of the characters and the pains that they feel when they are in the country. So it remains with you, and you come up with a feeling that war should not have a place in today's world. So that's my reason for being a storyteller and a fiction storyteller. And these are some of my influences as well, where I tried to keep the story based on characters and evoke the emotions which different writers have evoked in me. So this is the major motivation.
And then how ये आपको title कैसे आया? मतलब why the title is The Final Experiment?
It's a mystery science fiction, so I can't give away a lot. But it's a very, I would say, AI and scientific term where you learn everything from an experiment. You go through a series of trial and error, and then you improve upon your results, and you're building towards something. But it also represents the state of the world today. And are we the same people that we were in the age of Hammurabi, for example? So there are discussions in the book which are discussions leading towards that, so which are leading towards the changing sense of morality that we have. So during Hammurabi's time in 1776 BC was the first time when somebody wrote a code of laws. That's why it's important. It's called the Book of Hammurabi, where they said that if where the fine of killing someone's slave was that they are allowed to kill your slave.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
But they're not allowed to kill you, not your slave. And it was supposed to be the biggest book on human rights at that time, because before that even this did not exist. So we've come from there to the morality that we have today. But are we the perfect product yet, or are we still evolving? And the future generations will look upon us as primitive old people who had these barbaric laws.
Correct.
So that's also a philosophy that runs through the book, where in some sense we also are the final experiment, and we are moving towards it. So it's a combination of both technology and humanity, and and an era of supremely fast changing morality.
So matlab experiment, like like you said, the experiment. I think we all are experiment of our thoughts, our ideas, our creation. Maybe I'm like we are embodiment of of what all we do, what we experience in life, right?
Yeah.
So matlab final experiment is, I'm like, the book itself sounds very exciting, and it's a very beautiful cover of this book also. I can catch it from a long distance also. But now when you were writing it, right, मतलब जैसे आप एक टेक बैकग्राउंड से हो और आपने एक्सपीरियंस बहुत किया लाइफ के अंदर, एंड जब आप इस क्रिएटिव जर्नी में थे, तो जो कहते हैं राइटर्स ब्लॉक एंड एवरीथिंग, ऐसा कुछ आपको एक्सपीरियंस किया? एंड हाउ मच टाइम डिड इट टेक फॉर यू टू राइट दिस एक्चुअली, मतलब, एंड कब से आपने मैनिफेस्ट किया था इसको लिखना?
So this is not the first book that I've written, but I'm glad this is the first one to be published.
Okay.
I'm glad the others did not see the light of day. So I've been writing for a long, long time. I started with poetry, and then I think I wrote my first novel at the age of 17 or 18. And there also,
Seriously?
yeah, I think there's a fun story there also. I used to have a teacher called Kundan Rathor. He used to be my Hindi teacher,
Acha.
and he was very adamant that I should take arts in 11th because he found my essays really good. And he used to give me like 99 marks in Hindi, which is unheard of. And
Unheard, हाँ,
no
हाँ.
one should give that many
अब
marks.
तो लोग हिंदी में लिख भी नहीं सकते मेरे
Yeah.
ख्याल से properly.
So what I used to do during that time was you used to have these questions about writing a निबंध. एक निबंध लिखने
हाँ,
का एक
yeah.
बड़ा क्वेश्चन होता था. एंड निबंध में एक्स्ट्रा मार्क्स लाने के लिए आप अगर आपको कुछ पंक्तियां किसी की याद हो तो आप वो लिख दो एंड गेट्स यू brownie points and more. And I used to create poems and I used to write अज्ञात below that कि ये unknown
Unknown है writer.
but ये है. And he would catch up on that कि ये unknown के नहीं ये मैं ही लिख रहा हूँ, and he used to like them.
अच्छा.
तो he always used to convince me कि आप आर्ट्स लो, आप वहीं बहुत अच्छा करोगे. बट वो था कि जिनके मार्क्स अच्छे आते हैं पढ़ते हैं अच्छा वो नहीं लेते आर्ट्स.
हाँ, हाँ.
तो वहाँ पे बट वो मेरा पहला encouragement था कि somebody likes it. तो कंटिन्यू किया था मैंने. बट हाँ, I've written 4 or 5 books at different ages, and this one is the last one. Not the last one, but the latest one. And it took me like 1.5 years to write it, to go through the entire journey and also simplify it a lot. So it was very complex at the beginning, and I had to make sure that the crux of the book was the journey of these two protagonists and not the science behind it, not the physics or quantum mechanics or AI that drives the story. And yeah, it took me like 1.5 years to write it, and then it took around 1 year to get it published because it takes a lot of time in editing and proofreading and group discussions and all of those things. I'm almost done with the second part in the same series, so it's a complete book in itself. The story gets completed, but you have a world which has more stories to tell,
Of course.
and I might finish it in 3 to 4 months, and then it might be out in the market in 1.5 2 years again. Because I really like science fiction as a template for writing because it allows you to tell wondrous stories in a cautionary manner, which is something that I really like writing.
But I'm like, I'm very glad. First of all, आपने बोला कि it's a latest one, not the last one.
Yeah.
So, and first of all, congratulations on your book, and of course, good luck for your next one whenever it's out in the market. But sorry, I forgot the name of the characters. One is Yudhishthir, other one was
Other one is Yaksh.
Yaksh. So, जैसे होता है ना एक आप रेजोनेट करते हो किसी फीलिंग से, किसी कैरेक्टर से या किसी बंदे से, जैसे आपने बोला आपके हिंदी टीचर का बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस था आपके ऊपर. सो ये कैरेक्टर के नाम कहाँ से सोचे गए?
Great question, and I think a few readers also asked me this, and then I said Google it, and you will be surprised, and you will learn something about the ancient books that we have. So the characters are from Mahabharata.
Acha.
In Mahabharata, there is a story that about a lake that the Pandavas are on their vanvas, and they come across a lake and they drink water from it, and then they start dropping it. And then Yudhishthir comes to the lake, and then he sees that his brothers are lying unconscious. So he summons the god of the lake, and वो उनसे पूछते हैं कि आप मेरे भाइयों के साथ क्या हुआ? And the god of the lake is Yaksh, and Yaksh tells him कि उन्होंने परमिशन के बिना पानी पिया, but अगर आप मेरे प्रश्नों का उत्तर दोगे तो वो जीवित हो जाएंगे. So the conversation that happens between Yudhishthir and Yaksh after that is called Yaksh Prashna. Okay, and you might be able to see it in there are books about just Yaksh Prashna as well.
Acha.
And then Yaksh asks Yudhishthir about things like what is the meaning of life, what is virtue, what is the role of a mother in society, and things like that, and what is the goal of a human being in life. So there are these things that Yaksh asks Yudhishthir, which are written in thousands of years old book. And my story is also based on similar questions. There is also a chapter in the book called Sins and Virtues, where there's a conversation between a philosopher and Yudhishthir, which is very similar to the conversation between these historical characters. So my book is really is influenced by those Yaksh prashnas that Yaksh asked Yudhishthir in Mahabharata, which delved deeply into the psyche of humans, the kind of life that they want to lead, and the the sense of self. So the name comes from there. And I hope that even after the story, if people just Google that and they get to know the questions that Yaksh asked Yudhishthir, and then they have another thing that they can read and enjoy.
अब मैं एक चीज और मेरे को आपसे पूछना था, मतलब सी आई थिंक सबके पास कोई ना कोई स्टोरी होती है, हर लाइफ में हर बंदे के पास कोई ना कोई स्टोरी है, एंड वेरी फ्यू हैव द टैलेंट और acumen टू एक्चुअली पेन देयर थॉट्स डाउन, और मे बी उसको कन्वे कर पाए और पोर्ट्रे कर पाए. पर आई अंडरस्टैंड कि आपकी फिलॉसफी महाभारत से आई, उस यक्ष पक्ष से आई, राइट? तो इस बुक से, मतलब अगर कोई रीडर है उसको पढ़ना चाह रहा है, सो एक तो आपने बोला था जो मुझे स्टोरी सुनाई वो जुर्माने वाली, तो सेम फीलिंग के साथ somebody would you feel at ease with yourself after reading this, ऐसा होगा क्या? मतलब आई नो इट्स अ फिक्शन, बट तो फिक्शन के अंदर बहुत स्कोप होता है, कहीं से कोई भी नैरेटिव आप कुछ भी अज्यूम कर सकते हो, बट
so I think so. I think there are many elements in the book, and it's a Kafkaesque mystery which is set in contemporary India, and it's majorly about on the backdrop of class struggle and some other things. So when you read it, there are two people with two different journeys, and it also talks about how you have 100 countries which exist within the same country when it comes to India. There are people who are born in a small village for whom the height of ambition is becoming a salesman in the city. And then there are people who are also trying to start billion-dollar startups in the same country. So you have these varied degrees of ambitions and enablers for the same. So you have a path for the first person to succeed in the country, and you have a path for the second person also. And it's a story from their perspectives to also give people a sense of what the country is and what are the challenges that these people face. And along the same time, what happens when you're faced with technology that tries to give you answers for questions that you had not even asked for. So it's about a world where all of these things collide, and in a story which is written in a Dickensian and a Premchand kind of a narrative rather than a very hard science fiction narrative, because there is not a very big science fiction, and there are a lot of people who read science fiction in India, but it's not as big as in Western countries. And I'm also trying to climb this uphill battle where people don't read Indian science fiction authors because there are not many. There are some. So whenever I go to a book signing or to a book club, and they are really happy to see that we have more science fiction writers in India. But for that also, and to read to your viewers also, I want to say it's a gateway science fiction book. It's not extremely difficult to understand. It's the science is not the driving force. It's the characters, their journeys, their struggles. It's their journey of finding courage and selflessness and discovering what they're supposed to do.
Wow. Honestly, I'm like hearing about it. I've read half of it, to be honest. I haven't completed it, so I'll make it a point that I'll finish it within this week. And I'm hoping more and more readers will find this in the arsenal of the books they maintain, right? And अच्छा है, मतलब it's a very noble thought also जो आपके mind में है कि you want to take Indian authors, especially in the science fiction category, across the globe, right? मतलब at least आप पढ़ोगे तभी आप imagine कर सकते हो, and like in a way, मतलब जो हम starting में बात कर रहे थे, you are also a visionary in some way. Maybe you are also envisioning such certain things, right? Or paving a path for the future generation also.
I would say I would not call myself visionary. I don't like
Okay.
these. This is also a label, but I would
Ah.
say, yeah, I'm a storyteller. I can tell stories in a manner that resonate with people by making things uh, as simple to understand as possible. Uh, there are pioneers in science fiction in India. I think Satyajit Ray
Satyajit
who
Ray.
is a big science fiction author. People have not read him much. They know him for his movie making. There is Prayag Akbar who recently wrote Leela, and I think there's a show about the same book also. There are many science fiction authors, but they're not hugely popular today, and that's why it's difficult. But I don't want to claim to be a pioneer. There are many, but yeah, it's an uphill task for it. It was an uphill task for them also, and it's the same for me also.
So like as an now I'm talking to you as an artist, okay? Like everything we do, हम अपनी life में कुछ भी काम करते हैं तो it rubs on us, right? It has an impact on us.
Yeah.
So as a writer, when you're going through this process, तो did it change you as a person? आपने कुछ अपने अंदर self कुछ changes observe करे या आपको family members ने या किसी colleague ने किसी ने कुछ बताया कि this something has changed about you? Because I can see you're very grounded. वो तो आप already आपके principles, founding principles ही ऐसे हैं, but still, how about this book in itself?
Yeah. So I think for writing, I would say I've been doing it for so long कि अब नहीं बोलता कोई. About the book, and I don't think change comes instantly also.
Of
So
course.
it's it would have affected me because I deeply write about family in the book. There there are relationships. There is relationships between a mother and a son, a father and a son, a husband and wife that I've written about. So I don't want to say that the book changed me while writing and all. Uh, but the reverse also happens. And so well, life also changes what you're trying to write. And I think in some ways it changes you because as humans, we like to keep our work. And so it's an inherent mechanism within us. So when we don't keep our word, we feel guilty about it.
Yes.
So whatever I'm writing, in some ways, subconsciously it is permeating, or maybe I'm behaving in that manner.
You start imitating it, right?
Yes.
थोड़ा बहुत, हाँ.
Yes. So I think if it is happening, it's happening on a subconscious level, and it is only others who can tell me about it. And right now, yeah, not many people have read the book. It's out there for like 2 months. So it's doing well on Amazon, and it is reaching retail stores right now. So as more people read the book, and if some people who know me also read the book, then I think they would be better suited to answer this question.
I'm like, big kudos to you. I'm like, from Amazon to retail, it's a big leap, and congratulations also. This also brings me to a question, right? कि now आपने ये book लिखा, right? And you have been writing for a very long time. जैसे आपने बोला 17 साल की उम्र से आप लिख रहे हो, and small stories to a big novel now. अगर कोई एक young writer or aspiring writer इस podcast को देखता है और he wants to take some inspiration from a leaf out of a book, तो उसको आप क्या एडवाइस दोगे कि यार कैसे करें, हाउ टू स्टे कंसिस्टेंट, हाउ टू मतलब अपनी थॉट से कैसे आप जिद्दोजहद करो टू क्रिएट दैट मास्टरपीस, नॉट अ मास्टरपीस, एटलीस्ट टू राइट समथिंग एंड मेक इट अ जर्नी फॉर देमसेल्व्स. क्या कोई एडवाइस?
That's a good question. So I'll tell them a few things that I would have loved if somebody would have told me. The first thing is don't worry about technicalities.
Okay.
There will be someone who can edit your book for you or make the grammar pretty or use better words and all. It's the story that matters. If you have a strong sense of story and what you want to convey and an understanding of how to make your characters compelling, then you should just keep writing.
Okay.
And your first work is not going to be pretty. You will hate your work. So, but that's okay. Everybody hates the first thing that they create. But that shouldn't let's say shoo you away from writing. I can't even show my first work in public right now. It's so bad. Uh, so don't worry about technicalities. Don't be afraid to share your work with people, because I showed my first work to people and only then I got feedback, and the second work was slightly better, and the third work was even more better. So get feedback from a lot of people, and don't be afraid of getting bad feedback for early work as well. And lastly, for fiction writers, and this is only a problem with fiction writers, when you're writing non-fiction, you're already a master of the domain, so you have credibility and you know more than your readers. But for fiction writers, nobody knows more than any. It's very subjective. Uh, so the insecurity that a young writer is feeling is the same as a Salman Rushdie would feel when they're putting a new book out there, because only the readers will tell if the story is good or not. Because fiction is subjective.
Correct.
So don't worry about that insecurity. Everyone has it, and all fiction writers do, and we thrive on it. It's an excitement uh, to get your work out there and then to know whether people like the story or not. Whether you are the only one who considers yourself a storyteller, or the other people also.
So it's like the feedback is kind of food for the creative mind. All right, perfect. So I think we have covered on the book. We've spoken about it, and I would really, really encourage all the readers to actually find this book, pick it from the shelf, and actually read it. Uh, you're a young science fiction writer. I could say that, right? Please don't mind. But yes, of course, it's a good book. It's in a science fiction background, and it has core values of family, class struggles, and it has a more contemporary outlook. Is that right? Okay. So yeah. So I think I will encourage everyone to just grab this book, read it, and also comment your feedback. Of course, like feedback you asked about, right? So we would love to hear those feedback, right? And on the feedback, I would want to ask quick few questions. One, best feedback you got on this from anyone? What is the best feedback you got?
So I'm reaching out to a lot of people. So on social media, and especially LinkedIn, there are people who write that I'm an avid science fiction reader. And I found around 60, 70 such people. And I wrote to them and I gave them a sample of the book. And many of them then purchased the book. So I think I've heard back from many of them. And it's overwhelmingly people telling me that they did not expect the book to be such a strong human story, because as it begins, people think that it's a mystery, and when it ends, they are left with a lot of emotions and questions that they ask themselves. So I got the same feedback from many people that it's very different from what it looks.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if
it's a fiction. It's subjective, right?
Yeah. So that's one feedback that I have received. I have also received feedbacks around people saying that I didn't understand the science. I loved your book. So it's like it's not really mandatory to understand the science. You would be able to enjoy the book even without it.
All right. And the tricky question is, worst feedback?
I think the worst feedback, and it changed also. So I've given out my email ID to on my Amazon author's profile, so people can directly write to me.
Okay,
I received an email where somebody said your book makes no sense, and then I wrote back to them that tell me what did not make sense, and they wrote like a long mail, and it was at least from somebody who's really invested time in the book. And then I understood that they did not
Get the plot?
understand the prologue and epilogue. So they read it over a period of 1 month, and they had forgotten the first part. But it's a callback related stuff. And then when I wrote to them that this happens in the prologue and this is what is happening in the epilogue, and then they wrote back to me, it makes sense now. Thank you for explaining this. There is so with science fiction books and with books with callbacks, where you have to remember what is happening. This is a case which happens if your readers are not reading it in 2 to 3 days, then the experience gets diluted.
Okay. So it's a kind of आपको journey के अंदर रहना
Yeah.
पड़ेगा उसको enjoy करने के लिए.
Yeah.
That's how life is also, right?
It's written in a way that, and it's not that big. It's 250 pages. It's like 5-6 hours of your time. So it's consumable in 2 days.
All right, and edible too.
Yeah.
Just kidding. All right. So I think we've already spoken about the book, and now this brings me to a section which I really enjoy. It's kind of a fun section. Let's make it a little lighter now, right? We've spoken a lot about AI. We've spoken about your book, and we've talked about how things have got amalgamated, or maybe have a overlay or a connection between the entire story.
Yeah.
So I'll do a rapid fire with you, okay? And then whatever comes to your mind, आप मुझे वो बता सकते हो. And if you want to give an explanation, तो वो भी चलेगा, ठीक है?
Okay.
So let's start. Okay. One is daydream or deep focus.
I don't daydream.
Really? Being a writer, you don't?
I don't. Storytelling is different. I think daydreams is more about wishful thinking, maybe. So I imagine a lot. I think about stories a lot and advancing the plot.
Mm-hmm.
I think daydreams are more personal than what should I be doing. So I rarely do that. I don't remember the last daydream I had.
Perfect. So Kindle or notebook?
Notebook as in a physical copy?
Yeah.
Physical copy.
Physical copy. I always love the smell of the fresh new book, by the way. All right. One sci-fi book that changed your brain.
Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin.
Okay.
So it's an amazing book. It's not set on the Earth, set on a different colony, and it's majorly about people of two different species coming together, and it's about understanding that the things that united them were more powerful than the things that divided them, or the things that were different amongst the species. And it's a very old book, but it's very it's also a metaphor for different kind of people who are today involved in a lot of wars and all of these things, and they're just not realizing that they're not so different. Essentially, they're the same people who are monkeys 400 generations ago. So it's a very strong book.
I think आपने बहुत सारी couple of books की already mentioned कर दिया. I'll mention them in the my description so people can read about it. And I think after final experiment, I'll pick that one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Most overused word in tech.
It's there's just too many words.
Just give me throw out 2-3 jargons maybe.
I think synergy and optimize.
Yeah.
And a lot of these words are.
Yeah. People have started using synergy ऐसे भी randomly किसी ने intense में चिपकाना शुरू कर दिया. All right. So the career pivot that felt scariest.
I think leaving India felt scariest. It's degree. It's not very scary, but it's scariest because I was leaving a place where I was getting a lot of advantages due to my colleges and all, and say work experience. So in India, if you're from a decent MBA college like I was, you would get better roles and a lot of shortlists, and also better career progression and promotions and all of those things. And I was already working in a decent firm with the very smart set of people. So when I had to leave India, it was a bit scary because when you go out of India, nobody knows about these colleges. Nobody knows about your work experience and whether the firm is a good firm or not. You have to start from nothing, and then you have to succeed only in merit.
Yeah.
Whereas in India, you feel that if you have studied for the first 23-25 years, you have these colleges, then you might not have to work as hard throughout the life. And that changed when I moved externally, because then I had to build a credibility based on the work that I was doing, and I had to impress everyone every single day. So you don't have to impress a lot of people in India if you are from those decent colleges.
I'm very well adequately put, I would say. All right. So what's one AI-related trend people misunderstood or oversimplify?
I think we've talked about a lot of these things already, and I think
just one trend, maybe what you think as of now, which is actually relevant, which is happening right now.
Yeah, I the same thing comes to mind, which I talked about earlier, that not oversimplifying, but not really caring that it's really existential for some jobs, and you need to do more than just talking about it. You need to uh, skill yourself and weaponize yourself to be able to use it well. So it's not oversimplifying; it's just taking it more seriously. That's something that I would.
So let's just say you would want people to act rather than react.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, a question you still don't have an answer to.
Just too many questions.
Just give me one.
Who murdered JFK?
Everybody's wondering about it. All right, so that's a wrap for our rapid fire. But now, this is a very dear part of my segment, right? I want to ask you, and it's related to my show. Okay, so let me ask you, what is one thing you are addicted to in life? It can be a ritual, it can be a routine, it can be a book or whatever.
I think it changes a lot. I don't, let's say, have things that I've been doing for 15, 20 years. But in terms of books and concepts, right now I'm really into quantum computing. I consume everything that is on the internet or any big book that is written about it. I love Vishal Kako's Quantum Supremacy. So quantum computing is it's much bigger disruption than AI.
Yeah.
So it's essentially today you have GPUs and DPUs and machines which are running on transistors. And transistors, however small a transistor can be, it cannot be atomic. Transistor might still have 20 atoms. And on these transistors, you have a lot of logics which allow you to do AI and a lot of those things that we talked about. These will be replaced by quantum computers, and quantum computers are running on atoms. Atoms are what are involved in doing the computations, and it's because of the movement of electrons that you can have positive, negative, and those kind of charges. And with quantum computers, you are able to express values which are not just zeros and one, but everything between 0 and 1. Wow. So that allows you immense computational power. And quantum computers, I think they're 200,000 times faster than the normal digital computers, but they're not many. Some companies have it, but a lot of research is going on there. Like in 15 years, they would change the landscape. It would be as profound as discovering that you can do calculations on a chip, which led to the whole computer era.
Yeah.
So if AI is talked about as the next internet, quantum computing will bring something which will be as path-breaking as the first personal computer or the first mechanical computer even.
So you've spoken about quantum mechanics and you're so much engrossed into it. So will it make it to the next book or the next segment by any chance?
You have to read the first book to know, but and I think potentially it's in the second one as well. Yeah.
So okay, with no spoilers, guys. But yes, of course, please grab the book, read it, and of course, you can reach out for any. If in case you don't understand the plot or you don't end up reading the book within, let's say, 2 or 3 days, like Yogesh mentioned, and if you have any questions or queries, please reach out to him. We'll drop his email ID also in his profile also, so that you can reach out to him for your queries, your feedback, because that's a food for all the creative people, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Yogesh, for being on the show, and it was wonderful having you. It was a wonderful conversation, and I think there's so much still to be talked about. आपने AI के बारे में, you are like a expert into it. Of course, you will not want a label again, but yeah, I think you have very good knowledge and you're encouraging the people in the right through right medium and in a right manner. And I think we all have something to learn from you. And of course, I'll drop in Google AI and all those API links and everything also, so that people can actually learn and use technology in the best efficient manner, right?
Yeah, that sounds great. And thank you for having me. I had a great time chatting with you as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Wonderful having you on the show. Thank you. So here's what I'm taking away from this episode. You can be deeply logical and still dream wild. You don't have to fit your story into someone else's structure. AI might reshape the world, but it's curiosity that shapes you. Yogesh's journey reminded me that the most powerful edge isn't knowledge. It's the courage to keep evolving. Go grab the final experiment. Follow Yogesh. And if you are in a room that feels one size too big, walk in anyway. That's where your next chapter might be waiting. Until next time, stay curious, stay reflective, and stay addicted.